Okay, good morning, Year 7. I hope you're all well. One final lesson of online learning before we are back in school. So a big well done for all your hard work at home. Before we begin today, a reminder of the 5 steps to successful study, as these will help you concentrate and get the most out of your online lessons. Number 1, find somewhere quiet to watch this video. Number 2, sit at a table or a desk. Number 3, turn off all distractions. Number 4, have a pen and either your new yellow history exercise book or some paper to hand. And number 5, finally remember you can always pause this video and rewind whenever you need. So our lesson today asks us, were the Anglo-Saxons really living in a dark age? Sorry, I had to close the door because of the trains. So lesson number 3 today asks us, were the Anglo-Saxons really living in the Dark Ages? So pause the video now and write the title and date in your book. Before we begin, a little test today to see how much you can remember from our previous lessons. So this will help you recall or remember the information so far this term and help you get into the mindset needed for our history lesson today. So give yourselves 90 seconds and try and answer all 5 of these questions on your paper. So pause the video now and have a go at answering these 5 questions. I will come back and answer the questions at the end of the video. So bringing it back to our lesson today, by AD 410, so 410 years after Jesus was born, the Roman Empire was in deep trouble, and the Roman legions were withdrawn from Britain to help defend the empire from its enemies. Within a few generations, the Roman Empire had collapsed, and with it went the Roman way of life in Britain. The fine buildings and structures that the Romans brought to Britain fell into ruins, as their knowledge of how to maintain them was lost. Some historians call this era the Dark Ages, but many have disagreed or contested this term. This lesson we will decide whether the term Dark Ages can be applied to the Anglo-Saxon period or not. So task number 1 today. Have a think about the term Dark Age. What does it mean to you? Pause the video and come up with 3 different words to explain this term. We're looking down here. Give yourself 30 seconds. Go. For me, the term Dark Age means an age of no progress. There is no development in the country. There is no work. There is a lack of civilization, I suppose. So this is the term some historians have applied to this time period, and today we are going to work out if it is fair or not. So we're going to become investigative historians. To help us know more about these times, we have 2 clues, source A and source B. So source A is from an English monk and was written in 731 AD. Here he says, and he's talking about the Anglo-Saxons, they came from 3 very powerful Germanic tribes, so tribes from the area which is now Germany, the Saxons, the Angles, and the Jutes. It was not long before such hordes, horde is like an army, such hordes of these alien people crowded into the island that the natives who had invited them began to live in terror and fear. These heathen conquerors, so that means they haven't got a religion, devastated the surrounding cities and countryside and established a stranglehold over nearly all the doomed island. Quite a powerful statement. Source B, on the other hand, is this beautiful necklace found in the grave of a Saxon woman made from semi-precious stones. And you can see all these beautiful stones inside this necklace. So your second task today is to look at both of these sources and write down 3 things from each source that they tell us about the Anglo-Saxons. So 3 things that this source tells us about the Anglo-Saxons and 3 things this source tells us about the Anglo-Saxons. Give yourself 3 minutes for this task. Pause the video now. Go. Next, I want you to begin to explore historical thinking. We have a source here, this one here, written by an English monk over 1,000 years ago. Because he was a monk, a man of religion, do you think that would have influenced the way he wrote about invasions? Basically, would he write nice things about people who invaded and conquered, or not nice things? And why? Have a think about that question and write down a sentence to explain your thinking for this. We are answering question 3. Pause the video. Go. So within a few generations of arrival, the Anglo-Saxons had settled, had married into the local population, and become a part of the fabric of the country. Even the word England itself comes from the term land of the Angles, one of the people. As well as this, in AD 597, Christianity was introduced to the country through a monk named Augustine. He converted the Anglo-Saxon king Ethelbert and founded some of the first Christian churches in England. Christianity was to become one of the most powerful forces in English people's lives for the next 1,000 years and more, and is why we are at a Church of England school, which is a Christian school. So if you see source D, this is Greenstead Church in Essex. It is the oldest surviving wooden church in the world, and it was originally built by the Anglo-Saxons over 1,000 years ago, and it is still standing today. And finally, we come to the story of Beowulf. So this is one of my favourite parts of medieval history and is the picture on the front of the booklet. Beowulf is a poem created in the Anglo-Saxon era about a ferocious warrior who defeats an evil dragon. So another significant Anglo-Saxon contribution to our culture is the epic poem of Beowulf. It's the monumentous poem of Beowulf. It was composed or written at some point in the Anglo-Saxon period, but its original author is unknown. Only one copy of the manuscript, which is like the booklet of the poem, survives. Without this, historians would know nothing about the poem, which people continue to enjoy today. And this is a picture of the original manuscript here, over 1,000 years old. The poem tells the story of Beowulf, a heroic warrior who has to defend his homeland against a terrifying monster called Grendel. Beowulf kills the monster but is then forced to fight Grendel's mother, who is a dragon, and this extract from this source tells us more. Then Beowulf saw among weapons an invincible sword. It was so huge that no man but Beowulf could hope to handle it in the quick of combat. Ferocious in battle, he grasped the ringed hilt, swing the ornament sword despairing of his life. He struck such a savage blow that the sharp blade slashed through her neck, smashed the vertebrae. It severed her head from her fated body. She fell at his feet. The sword was blood-stained. Beowulf rejoiced. So this poem was written over 1,000 years ago, and yet it is still so vivid and descriptive. So bringing it back to today's lesson, what 2 things can we learn about Anglo-Saxon England from source C and D? Question number 4. So they have a church and a poem. What does this mean about the Anglo-Saxon people? Have a think about these questions. Pause the video and write down 2 things you can learn. Give yourself 2 minutes. Go. So what do you think? Were the Anglo-Saxons really living in the Dark Ages? Remember, the Dark Ages mean that there is no education, no progress, no enlightenment. Is that true from what we now know about the Anglo-Saxons? Why? Why not? I want you to draw a line in your exercise book or on your paper like this, with these 2 descriptions on either side. Yes, the Dark Age. No, not the Dark Age. Using what you know today, where do you stand? Somewhere in the middle? Or do you believe the Anglo-Saxons were not living in the Dark Ages, or they were living in the Dark Ages? Place yourself on this line. Then I want you to use 2 pieces of evidence from any of the sources we have talked about today to support your argument. So if you say they are not living in the Dark Ages and you want to use the church to show why, then you can reference the church. Remember, you can rewind the video at any time to go back to the source. So your task today is to use 2 pieces of evidence from any of the sources we have talked about to answer the questions, were the Anglo-Saxons really living in the Dark Ages? Give yourself 6 minutes for this task. Go. When you have done that, you have completed today's lesson. And bringing it back to the quiz at the beginning of our lesson, I'm going to give you the answers. So, number 1, name the time period in Britain before AD 43 that was named after a metal. This was the Iron Age. Who were the people that lived in Britain in this time period? They were the Celts. What was unusual about the ivory bangle lady? She was from North Africa. What is a chronology? A chronology is putting dates in order, in an order. And finally, why were the Romans successful in conquering Britain? Because they were formidable fighters, or you can say better warriors or better organized. So give yourself a big pat on the back if you got 3 or more out of 5. A big well done for today. That is all for today, and I will be seeing you very soon. So well done for this week and last week, and we are very nearly there. Any questions, please let me know, and look forward to seeing you soon. Bye bye.